Seems like we will not be getting that new Spider-Man No Way Home trailer today, which, coming from the reports of a lot of scoopers and leakers, really isn't much of a surprise. However, a ton of people are starting to put some dots together, and we are putting together a huge old leak that is turning out to be even more true than I think people expected. So we're going to go over an entire plot leak for Spider-Man No Way Home, and this is a potential spoiler warning. Everything that is said in this leak could somehow possibly be true, so you've been warned. Hey everybody, how's it going? Welcome back to Cosmic Culture, the channel where we talk about all major movie and television news, theories, breakdowns, and much, much more. I'm Chris, and I do want to announce the giveaway that the Cosmic Wonder and myself are doing. We're giving away this awesome Spider-Man collectible. All you need to do to enter is subscribe to this channel and subscribe to the Cosmic Wonders channel. We'll be picking a random comment at the end of the month, so good luck to you. So this leak actually came out in July 2021. It's from an anonymous source. However, there are a ton of different points to it that have been proven just by the release of the first trailer. So the entire first half of this leak, which remember came out in July, has all been proven accurate from the trailer. On top of that, the ending half of this leak, which has some new information that wasn't proven in the trailer, has recently been revealed to maybe have a little bit more merit than we thought, and we'll go over that as well. So keep in mind, first half of this leak, all proven true from the trailer. The second half, we're going to be talking about why there might be some accuracies here as well. So let's jump into this leak. It comes to us in bullet point form, so it jumps through the different points of the plot for Spider-Man No Way Home, starting with the opening all the way to what the end is supposedly going to be. So it starts off by saying the story opens after Peter is revealed to be Spider-Man, which we've already heard and I can pretty much guarantee is how this movie is going to start. It picks up right where we left off in Spider-Man Far From Home, and we see his initial reaction. He kind of swings around with MJ, so I believe this, and this has also been seen in the trailer from different scenes. Then we find out that the feds are going to interrogate him, MJ, Ned, and May about Mysterio's death, which again, we did see in the trailer. This is a new detail that we haven't seen in the trailer, but it actually makes a lot of sense. It says that he and MJ cannot get into MIT because of his notoriety and her proximity to him. So they're both very, very smart individuals, high school students working their way into college. It was Peter's dream to go to MIT, and him and MJ are dating. I would imagine that she also probably wants to go there to be with him. And of course, it's a school that a lot of people would like to get into. However, because of the situation that they are in, and it's all Peter's fault, that they aren't able to get into MIT. I could see this being one of the reasons why Peter Parker wants to have everything that happened with his reveal get erased. He feels bad because he's ruined MJ's life. He doesn't want to have to deal with that anymore. And although in the trailer we see MJ's trying to look at it as a good thing that he's free and doesn't have to hide anymore, I'm sure he feels a lot of guilt for any backlash that she might be getting because of him. Now, the next three different points are all 100% confirmed from the trailer. Starts off by saying Peter goes and asks Doctor Strange to cast a spell so everybody forgets he's Spider-Man, followed by Wong warns them that it could mess everything up, and then Peter's pestering makes Doctor Strange screw up the spell. All three of those things happened in the trailer in succession. They were very clearly what was going on. Wong warns Doctor Strange before he goes off. Doctor Strange goes ahead and does it anyway. And then Peter starts talking to him while he's doing the spell, and Doctor Strange tells Peter to stop talking because it's going to mess up everything. Now, from this pestering of Peter, we find out that Strange accidentally opens the multiverse and brings in the people who are specifically after Peter and Spider-Man. Now, this wasn't 100% confirmed in the trailer. However, Doctor Strange does talk about the multiverse and how our knowledge of the multiverse is extremely small. We also then see Doc Ock and Green Goblin's voice, which is going to be Willem Dafoe's Green Goblin. I almost guarantee it to you. So these characters coming from different universes, on top of that Electro, Sandman, and others who are going to be involved, all coming from different universes. This really does confirm the multiverse for us. And this entire leak is following the trailer almost shot by shot from the information that they gave to us. And again, keep in mind, this is from July 4th, 2021, prior to the release of the first trailer. Now, this next part is part of a leak that has been circling around. I've heard a lot of different YouTubers talk about this, a lot of different scoopers talk about the possibility of what's going to happen after all of these characters make their way over to the Sacred Timeline, to the MCU. And it has to do with Strange either keeping them in some type of prison or trying to rehabilitate them before they get sent back to where they belong, or he's just containing them. Now, this leak specifically says that he's trying to rehabilitate the villains instead of just sending them back to the universes to die at the hands of their respective Spider-Men. We know that all of these characters are taken right before their point of death, except for Sandman, who we know doesn't die, at least to our knowledge, to the hands of Spider-Man. So his inclusion and his involvement might be a little bit of a red herring or a little bit of a question as to how exactly he gets there. But we've also heard on top of that he isn't going to necessarily be part of the Sinister Six at the end of the day, that he's going to step away and not try to fight the Spider-Man. So a lot of strange rumors circulating exactly the circumstances that the villains will be facing upon their initial arrival to the MCU. Now, this specific leak doesn't give us details as to how they are going to be escaping the hands of Doctor Strange, although we've heard from several different leaks and different scoops that Spider-Man, Peter Parker, Tom Holland's Spider-Man, is actually going to release them because he's going to get tricked by Green Goblin, Willem Dafoe's Green Goblin, who's going to do some of that fancy talking and work his way out of Doctor Strange's rehabilitation or Doctor Strange's cages, whatever it be. Now, this leak says, as a result of Green Goblin betraying Peter, May dies. So Aunt May from the MCU dies as a result of Peter Parker allowing these villains from different multiverses to escape and run around in the MCU. Green Goblin betraying Spider-Man is an absolute classic move, and seeing that there's going to be a real consequence from that is going to, one, affect Peter deeply, and could possibly change the character and the attitude, which Tom Holland has talked about a ton in different interviews leading up to the release of this film, and it's going to just be heavy for viewers to watch, since I think a lot of people have a pretty cool attachment to this Aunt May, and her immediate involvement in the MCU. So, following that tragedy, I would imagine Peter is kind of at a loss of what to do, and how to deal with all of these crazy multiversal villains who all hate Spider-Man showing up in his world, on top of most of the world either still knowing who he is and hating him, or some type of weird formula within that. We see in different moments that Ned and MJ still know who he is. So we don't know how well or to what capacity the spell actually worked, if at all, because it's possible that from Peter messing it up, the only thing that actually happened from Doctor Strange's spell was the opening of the multiverse, and everybody still knows who Peter is the whole time. Now, this is where this leak gets very interesting, and also where a lot of people started to notice a potential way that we can confirm this. And I'll get to that after we finish the leak, but it says specifically that the other two Spideys finally show up due to Ned having Strange's ring that opens portals. So they're referencing the sling ring here, and that Ned has it. Now, it doesn't say specifically if Ned is the one that opens the portal or if he has the ring and gives it to Peter, who has seen him do it before. Regardless, it is because of Ned having this ring that the other two Spideys show up. So this would also be after the fact that May is dead, according to this leak, and the initial interaction of Peter Parker from the MCU has happened with these multiversal villains. Now, the ending of this plot leak is the three Spider-Men work together. There's a big fight with all of the villains and the Spider-Men, and then Strange finishes his spell and makes literally everyone forget that Peter is Spider-Man. Now, here it says literally everyone. That might include Doctor Strange. It seems to include MJ and Ned and all of the people in the entire world, including maybe even these villains. So that'll be an interesting ending and a cool break as we wait to see Peter Parker and MJ potentially making their way into college, and years down the road we can be reintroduced to this Spider-Man, because it does seem like maybe we'll be getting a little break from Tom Holland after this Spider-Man is over. And that does make perfect sense, because if everybody, the Avengers, Nick Fury, Doctor Strange, if everybody forgets who Peter Parker is, then he could go into hiding for a few years until he feels the overbearing weight of power and responsibility calling him back to be a hero. Now, there will be a lot of touching moments, especially when the three Spider-Men get together in this film. All stuff that down the road is going to be a very important inclusion, because I do believe we will be seeing Tom Holland's Spider-Man again in his college years, but I also agree with the possibility and the idea that it might be a little bit of a break before that happens. Now that does leave me to wonder where exactly the Venom film is going to fit in. However, I still think the MCU is going to be taking care of the MCU first before it worries about how Venom is going to fit into the whole picture. Now, this leak is very basic, but it does cover pretty much everything from start to finish. Now, intimate details like what we can expect to happen aren't necessarily here, but it does talk about a lot of very important parts. And like I said, even though it's come out before the trailer, it lines up very, very well with so many details that came to us from the trailer. Now, there is something specific that is causing this leak to gain even more traction today, and that is there are the original images that came out way back when of Peter, Ned, and MJ who appear to be in Doctor Strange's sanctum. Now, we all speculated when these photos originally released that that's where they were hiding out after all of the craziness that happened with the reveal of Spider-Man at the end of Far From Home, and now we have even more reason to believe it, especially when you take considerations from this leak. When it talks about Ned having Doctor Strange's sling ring, and then Peter maybe or Ned using it to bring the other two Spider-Men to come help him, that starts to raise some questions. But it is possible that Peter has learned how to do it from his time hanging out with Doctor Strange, and it wouldn't be the most impossible thing to happen. And it also would make sense that Ned and Peter and MJ were sitting there thinking, well, if there are villains from other multiverses, there are Spider-Men from all their multiverses, and I need them to defeat these characters. And no doubt the villains, before they were freed and betraying Peter Parker, talked to them about the Spider-Man from their universes. So that all makes sense to me, and the desire to get help, especially after the death of Aunt May, makes perfect sense to me. But look at these original images. In the hands of Ned right here is a little piece of metal sticking out of his grasp. Now, it might be far-fetched, it's not a clear image, but I am believing that this is the sling ring. Whether it's Doctor Strange's exact sling ring or it's a sling ring that was sitting around the sanctum, it's 100% possible Ned picked it up thinking it was something cool, or possibly something useful that they could use later on if necessary. Maybe he was even practicing with it on his own during his own time, and we'll see that in the film, and that's how he was actually able to do it, was he was practicing using this sling ring. Now, like I said, it's not a clear and 100% obvious image of the sling ring in Ned's hands here, but it is something, and it is something that resembles the sling ring, and everything else in this leak, especially the stuff that lines up perfectly with the trailers, does lead me to believe this is a very possible way that we could be getting the other two Spider-Men in the MCU. Overall, it is a very interesting plot leak that does give us start to finish and some pretty crazy ideas of 1, the death of Aunt May, 2, a confirmation potentially of the other two Spider-Men joining, not that there are really many other doubts, and it even backs up other leaks and scoops that we've heard about the multiversal villains being incarceration and then betraying Peter Parker. So a lot of cool details here. I think that this could be the actual bullet point plot of Spider-Man No Way Home, including the huge consequence of the death of MJ because of the multiversal villains releasing and betraying Peter Parker. So my 2 big questions are, number 1, how do you feel about this plot leak? Do you think it could be real? Number 2, do you think this is a sling ring that Ned is holding in his hands from these super early pictures that were released for Spider-Man No Way Home? Super curious to hear what you guys think. I think this is a very interesting way that the story could go, and honestly, I don't really have any issues with what was put here. I think it's going to be a very emotional movie. The death of Aunt May, the inclusion of other Spider-Men, Peter Parker eventually being forgotten to the world, it's all going to leave a pretty insane mark, and the future of Spider-Man and his story is only going to get crazier from here. Thank you guys so much for watching till the very end of the video. If you found it helpful, useful, or interesting, consider subscribing to the channel and turning on that notification bell so you don't miss any of our major movie and television news updates that we're posting here daily on the channel. Also, the Spider-Man No Way Home trailer is not far away. It didn't come out today, and that is a huge bummer. However, hit that notification bell. We'll be going live. We have some ideas of when it will be coming, and we're going to be ready for it so that we can share that moment together. Thank you guys so much. I'll see you in the next one right here on Cosmic Culture.